The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists. Theo Goodman from Haas Online.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the movie and entertainment night.
Tone Vase from Liberty Life Trail.
Hi, everyone. It should be I've been looking forward to this one.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to Issue 1. Issue 1, Bitcoin on TV. Sorta. Crackle, Sony's answer to Netflix, released a new show called Startup this week, which features GenCoin, a coin very similar to Bitcoin. The show, a sensationalist fuckfest, centers on the money laundering and criminal activity in Miami. Melodramatic it may be, the plot of the show necessitates the explanation of the power of Bitcoin over and over again. Tone Vase, your thoughts on Sony's new show, Startup.
All right, so disclaimer, I really wanted to watch more of it, but I've only had time to watch the first 3 episodes out of 10. I think they released them like Netflix. They released the whole thing. I actually had to download Crackle app on my Fire Stick in order to watch this thing. So I'm 3 episodes in, and it gets a thumbs up from me. I actually really like it. It's fairly realistic as you can get it. I'm not going to comment on the acting. The acting is probably not great. I am not an expert in acting. So, I mean, you can tell like really bad actors, but that's not my place, right? That's not my area of expertise. Probably some bad actors, some characters are weird. But the show is very realistic off the bat, at least to me it is. Even though I don't want to give too much away, but I'll definitely run through the first episode.
We can do spoilers. Just in general, everyone should be aware we're probably going to do some spoilers for Startup, Mr. Robot, and the movie Dope. So if you haven't seen those, you want to go watch those, come back, watch this episode later. Warning, internet's all about spoilers these days. So there you go, you have your spoiler.
All right, I don't want to give too much away, but basically there was 2 directions Startup could go, and I wasn't sure which one they were going to take. So one direction Startup could go is the world doesn't know about Bitcoin, and that's the first, cryptocurrency. So the world doesn't know about Bitcoin, and this basically is Bitcoin, but they're going to go by a different name just so that, like they do in a lot of shows, they don't want to use the exact name for liability reasons or whatever. Even Bitcoin can't actually sue them. So, the coin in this movie is GenCoin. But the biggest question was, is GenCoin the representation of Bitcoin, or is GenCoin an altcoin, and people know that Bitcoin exists? So off the bat, from the first episode, you know that GenCoin is an altcoin, and Bitcoin already exists. So the pitch is, this is a better Bitcoin. And this is exactly our life right now, right? Since 2013, this has been our life. Charlie Lee has probably developed the most successful altcoin because Ethereum is still a complete scam to me. At least Litecoin was fair. God, no Ethereum comments. We're not talking about that. So to me, Litecoin is probably the most successful altcoin. I know Monero people are going to scream, but this is what GenCoin is. GenCoin offers a better alternative to Bitcoin, like Monero, like Dash, like Litecoin. The creator of it is a girl, Stanford, programming genius. So if this was the representation of Bitcoin, I would have had an issue with the lead dev being a female, because that's just probabilistically rare. I've worked for enough CTOs in my life and for enough developers in my life, and now that I look back at it, I go, oh my God, I barely ever remember like a female boss in the programming world. It's just rare. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's rare. But however, we have 700 altcoins. So yes, it's absolutely possible that a few of the creators of these altcoins were female programmers. Just statistically, just like we have, one really good race car driver, Danica Patrick, the odds are about the same. So I'll give them that, right? Okay, fine. You're gonna go with an altcoin. I'm okay with that, right? The female character being the lead dev. I like that character. I think that character is realistic. Right off the bat in the first episode, her parents are screaming at her, get a real job. Her ex-boyfriend is screaming at her, you just ran up a $600 electric bill. These are all fairly realistic to me. I know my family's been yelling at me about getting the job since I quit almost 2 years ago. So a lot of us can relate to this. So to me, it was very realistic. They are focusing on the drug money, criminal money, money laundering. Off the bat, they're using. They're not even scamming anybody yet. That's the thing. I mean, obviously, it's an altcoin. It's probably a complete scam. She doesn't realize that she created a scam. She thinks it's legit. It might be legit. The only spoiler I will give is they didn't really give technical details on the coin, but it sounds like she built an AI program. And maybe I'm reading into it. I'm guessing further along, but it sounds like the code is closed source, but the code has an AI component that will dynamically not only do the block size, even though block size wasn't mentioned. I'm assuming not only will it figure out the block size dynamically, it will actually also figure out supply dynamically. That's the hint that I got. It sounds like the director somewhat knows what he's doing, but people have to realize that the pitch for this show probably came several years ago. The crypto space evolves so quickly. I bet you the script was written like 2 years ago, and we had a completely different altcoin environment. People have to keep this in mind. You got to put yourself back 2 years ago, and if you weren't in the space 2 years ago, then you have no idea what the hell you're doing. So it will be very difficult for you to evaluate this show. Put yourself in the place of like Bitcoin is just starting to be known. And also, remember, if you've been in this space for more than 2 years, you are a bigger expert at Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies than anyone making this show is. I really wish they had some really good advisors. There are good advisors, people that understand Bitcoin down in Miami from the criminal perspective or in general. I hope they lean on these people. But right now, I'm 3 episodes in. I'm really like the show. I want to watch more of it. I'm definitely going to catch the entire first season over the next week. I'm trying to think what else I can mention real quick on it, other than just put yourself in their place. They're building an altcoin, and they haven't scammed any users yet. That's the beauty of it. And it sounds like they understand the supply problem because I'll tell you who doesn't understand supply problem. The creators of Steemit don't, because they're creating inflation at an unreasonable rate because they compared it to Bitcoin, and Bitcoin had half of its supply in the first 4 years when no one knew what Bitcoin was. Yeah, so it needed the supply, but they're trying to get rid of Steemit in the first 3 months, and they're creating it at the rate that Bitcoin was created. That's just stupid. So off the bat, to me, Gencoin is significantly more legit than Ethereum. It's significantly more legit than any of these app coins. They're trying to get seed money so they can bring it to the world with like some advertising. They're getting this seed money through illegal means, which is probably, I guess, I don't want to say smarter way to do it, but it's consistent. So I actually like the show. It would be cool if they bring in, some people that pitch altcoins and bring them to the world. I don't want to name any names, but I guess I could name names. I mean, people that have brought altcoins to the world. People like Michael Turpin is a good PR guy. People like Charles Hoskinson is already involved in several of these things. So they would need people like that in their show, and that would solidify the launching of this altcoin. But other than that, the show gets a big thumbs up from me 3 episodes in.
All right, I'm going to pick up where Tone left off. I've seen the first 2 episodes of the show. I did want to watch a third one, and I probably will watch the rest of the show. It's a little sensationalistic for me. Just a small note, we've seen all 3 of the main characters have sex in the first episode. That was fascinating to me. They also managed to do it with no nudity at all. So it's a really interesting combination of sexual scenes. So you're going to see that. The other thing, the Bitcoin Gencoin thing, it kind of reminded me of another show, AMC's Halt and Catch Fire, which I watched most of last week. And Halt and Catch Fire starts out in the 1980s, and they're basically developing an IBM PC clone. And it's very realistic. And the main character is kind of a Steve Jobs, and the secondary character is kind of a Steve Wozniak. And they reference Jobs, though. The guy says he knows about Jobs, and they know about Apple, and the 1984 Apple commercial comes out and blows them away. And I think in the same way, this show references Bitcoin, but then it starts talking about Gencoin. And all the times when they're explaining Gencoin, they very well could be explaining Bitcoin. There's a speech she gives that's very similar to Andreas's speeches, where she talks about Gencoin, helping the unbanked, helping the world, not having inflation, being a trusted currency that people can own and not have it taken away from them, like PayPal or government freezing your funds or whatever. So it is interesting in that respect. I like the Miami as a character in it.
Oh, yeah.
The way that we've become ensconced with these gangsters. I thought, I don't know the gentleman's name who plays the main gangster, but he's very scary. He is very good at what he's doing, and I found him an effective power character in this as he's threatening the other characters and getting things done. I'm interested to see how he softens as they become a unit and a team working together. I think it's an interesting show, and again, it's a vehicle for Bitcoin. It explains how Bitcoin works. So I'm hoping in the next episodes we're going to have the gangster guy is going to explain it to his friends. The girl tries to explain it to her family. The nerdy guy who's investing in it, he's going to have to explain it to his investor buddies. Everyone needs to understand cryptocurrency, and by having all of these different explanations, I think it'll be a really valuable thing for Bitcoin. I wish it was on a bigger network than Crackle. The only thing I've watched on Crackle before is comedians in cars getting coffee, Seinfeld show, which is a great show, but I never remember that it's on because it's on Crackle. But yeah, I'm interested to watch the rest of the season. My favorite character is definitely Martin Freeman. He's one of the hobbits. I think he might be Bilbo. And he's a strange FBI agent in this show. And he's always messing with people. He's always too friendly with them. He's always following things up, creating awkward silences. I like his character. I'm interested to see what he does next. He's definitely the best. I agree with Tone. The girl's not a great actress. She has a lot on her plate as the Satoshi type character. It's tough to make that a believable thing, but maybe she'll get better. I think the main thing I'm feeling is I feel a Miami feeling, which I like, and it gives it character. And I'm interested to see where they take the cryptocurrency. So, all in all, an interesting show.
Yeah,
Theo,
let me just jump back in there real quick because of what you said. I actually also like the main thug character, the black guy. And one of the things I liked about it the most is they didn't pick like an overbearing must character, right? They like a regular guy who's skinny but who's clearly smart, and he can get the muscle around him. I thought that was a great play on picking that specific character. No, and
I also like his foresight. I like the way that he didn't want to kill the other guy. He could have stopped what seems to be a building gang war, and he just seems like a level-headed criminal. Like, they give him the proposal for Gencoin. He's not crazy about it at first. He's going to feed them to alligators, but he thinks about it. He thinks about things, and he thinks about the future. A lot of the gangsters are just very short-sighted, and they want blood or they want money. This guy's different. I'm interested to see where he goes, and I hope that he expands as a character.
Yeah, no, and it was like realistic. Like, he didn't just agree, right? They took the effort. They had he was like sitting on the stall, took his time, like actually Googled.
They showed him reading the paper. The gangster does research.
Right, right, and I mean, I like the little details of that show are actually good. I mean, yes, it's low budget. Yes, the acting might not be great, But I like the little details. Like the female lead programmer, she's not like that awkward. She's awkward enough to be, a straight up amazing developer. And I like that she dresses the role. She dresses kind of like a guy. She's clearly a female, and she's a pretty female who's smart, and she definitely takes advantage of the fact that she's a female, as you will know by the first, 20 minutes of the first episode.
She says some pretty incredible things about what she's willing to do to get hosting
right.
for servers.
And look, I don't know like the age of our audience, but that is exactly true. I mean, I've run into these situations. I'm old enough, I've had girls live at my place longer than they should have, running up my bills too. So in that opening scene, I'm like, holy shit, maybe not a $600 bill, but yeah.
Well, I like that she's doing it for a good cause, doing it for her program. And I also like that she's not as autistic as, say, Mr.
Right.
Robot. She's still focused on her project, though. She has that singular focus that you see with a lot of programmers, where you know that she can get in the zone and get it done, but at the same time she's more social than, say, Vitalik or Mr. Robot.
And it's the little details, right? She does program at night. She does sleep half the day. Well,
her parents don't understand what she's doing. They don't understand the value she's created. They have no idea. They think she went to Stanford, didn't learn anything, and yet is still toting around these massive server racks on what is clearly a complex project.
Right. Like I said, I personally like the show. I want to see more of it. They're clearly on the right track. I hope they watch this episode. They can definitely reach out to us if they have any questions about cryptos, to just get it perfectly right. They also try to stay away from too many details that people like us will hang them on, which is also fairly smart. So again, I like it in the next episode, Thomas. It's exactly what you think it is. They all try to pitch it. The gangster guy tries to pitch it to his friends. The banker guy tries to pitch to like his rich people, and they're all looking at him like they're completely crazy and telling them that they're trying to scam them, right? So it's exactly like it should be. Like I said, I like the show.
See, and that's exactly what I want to see. I want to look forward to that because I've pitched Bitcoin to so many people, and I keep pitching it, and I'm going to keep pitching it. But I like to see other people's takes, and especially as a vehicle for spreading the word about Bitcoin, having the show where so many characters have to understand cryptocurrency through their own lens about how it affects their lives. The gangster affects him in his way, the financial guy in his way, the financial guy that's laundering money in his own way. I mean, they all have a way that Bitcoin can help them.
And now imagine, I guarantee you almost nobody that's going to watch our show has actually tried to pitch Bitcoin to like a gangster. Because none of like everyone that talks tough in the comments, they're all sitting at home trading altcoins, right? How many people are out in the streets? Very, very, very few people in the streets. And honestly, when I was watching some of those gang scenes, I mean, look, I'm not saying I was ever like that deep into it, but look, I grew up in Brooklyn. I went to a high school, like half my high school, maybe not half, but 50% of my high school was black. I've been to some bad neighborhoods in my life. I've seen some shit go down. I wasn't really involved, but I mean, I lived in some rough areas. I really like the way they took the show, and most people have never been around that. Very few people are have even walked through the bad parts of Brooklyn or Miami or LA. So I like the show. I'll leave it on that note.
And maybe they'll watch the show, and the explanations will lead them to Bitcoin. I mean, it's very possible. Theo, I know you haven't seen the show, but do you have any thoughts about like what we're talking about?
I'm already an expert. Shit. Down in the deep south, a lot of these small towns have got higher murder rates in New York, LA, San Francisco. You go to Spartanburg, South Carolina. It's rough. Anyway, I've got a few theories coming up for this show. Check this out. This is what's going to happen. What's going to happen is she's going to get a boyfriend in the show, a new boyfriend, and he's going to be the first guy to double spend on that blockchain. And then they're going to have this really big falling out, and the big dude that you guys were talking about, he's going to regulate on him, and it's going to be a pretty big deal. And after all,
the very dramatic scene with her yelling at him, "You've ruined my project. You're double spending." It could be good.
Yeah. Right. And then what's going to also happen is throughout all the pitching and And like you said, they're going to pitch to gangsters or whatever. But you know, most of them aren't going to get it, or they're going to think it's a scam. But there's going to be one crew, and they're like, "Damn, that's good." After they leave, and then they're going to make their own coin. It's going to be called One Blood Coin, and they're going to compete with the other coin, and it's going to be like a gangster version of OneCoin. Basically, it's going to be called One Blood Coin.
There is an interesting side note there, Theo, on the different kind of gang and group dynamics in the show. The main gangster guy mentions that he's a Haitian, and that all of the other racial gang groups in his neighborhood have had huge come-ups. They've had big success in drug dealing or big success in other areas, and he wants something for the Haitians. And in the way of the show, he seems to be taking GenCoin, aka Bitcoin, for the Haitians. And it has a very interesting connotation where, yeah, maybe the Bloods win this one or the Crips win this one because of technology. It's an interesting thread to follow down.
So that's my take on the show. And I think there's going to be some crazy stuff coming up in the future, some unexpected things. Hey, you think that she's the one that came up with the coin right now at this part of the show, but there's more to be revealed in the future, and maybe it's a next level kind of thing where she's just acting like she's doing something, or she's just helping, but really what she's doing with all those servers is communicating with a worldwide network in order to get this thing to work, that you just don't see everything yet.
It's very true. She could be acting while acting about acting.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is, right now, as you guys are talking, I'm sitting here thinking, going, what are my real complaints with the show? And honestly, I can't really think of much, right? I don't know what they got wrong. I mean, they're pretty much nailing it up to this point. I don't have much to complain on. I mean, but I'm also putting myself back into a place 2 years ago, not right now, because again, creating a movie or a show takes time. The scripts get written way in advance. So that's kind of how I see it.
I think the main thing they need to avoid is a dangerous fork of GenCoin that would create two GenCoins.
GenCoin Classic.
That might actually be because, and the reason is that I've seen commercials going forward, and it sounds like they're going to get hacked at one point or another. So, I mean, I can't wait for that.
They definitely need to have a hacking scene. They need to have that combination of the gangster with all his power is suddenly powerless. Some little kid somewhere has taken away their money, and unless they can trace him down, he can never muscle in on someone that he doesn't know. So it could be interesting. Yeah, I think we're all going to watch the show going forward. We're interested in it. Check it out in the link below. It's on Sony's site at Crackle. You can check it out. It's called Startup. Moving on to the exit question. Bitcoin would be better off if it was created by a woman. Yes or no? Spoiler alert, maybe it was. Tone Vase.
Oh, man, you're going to get me in trouble.
You can deny to answer. You can just walk away.
No, like I said earlier, if I thought they were, recreating Bitcoin and pretending that Bitcoin doesn't exist in their world, having a female as the lead dev, I would have had an issue with it. Now I don't have an issue with it. Just the probability of that is small, right? It's like saying that, the first and greatest race car driver was a female. I mean,
but come on, Tona. A woman gives birth. A woman creates children. A woman creates a long-lasting, free project for the world. Wouldn't it be great if Satoshi was a woman? It would be the best story ever.
I know, but the probability of your lead dev being a woman is about the same as your race car driver being a woman. We have one Danica Patrick out of a group of 200 top race car drivers. That's probably going to be your ratio in the programming world. Be a little better, a little higher towards women. Look, it's just reality of the situation. I'm not saying they can't do it. Just the probability is small. I give a very low probability of Satoshi being a woman, or if Satoshi is 2 to 3 to 4 people that really worked on that code, the probability of one of them being a woman is just tiny. It just is. Look, it's a profession, right? If we're talking about a new revolutionary education system, I'll probably put the odds on it being a woman that did it, right? But when it comes to stuff like this, the odds are just in men's favor.
In statistics, and you can prove anything with statistics. 97% of all people know that. Theo Goodman.
Well, the chances are really low, but I'm going to go with that Bitcoin would probably be better if Satoshi was a conglomerate of a lot of individuals that have contact with extraterrestrial beings that have looked down upon Earth and are asking themselves, why aren't you using your technology like this? Here are some little things. Why don't you guys mix this together? And then that's how it all got started.
Excellent points, Theo. And Satoshi, if you are a woman, call me, maybe. A lot of jokes there. Let's move on to the next topic. Issue 2, Bitcoin and Mr. Robot. Warning, spoilers ahead. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. All right, you've been warned. Bitcoin has been heavily featured this season on the popular hacking drama, Mr. Robot. Hacking group F Society was successful in their Fight Club-esque hack of last season, destroying the credit record and the backup, throwing society into chaos. And from that chaos comes Bitcoin and eCoin, a Bitcoin competitor created by E Corporation themselves, as perhaps an attempted solution to the hack. Another subplot centers around an online drug marketplace powered by Bitcoin. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on Mr. Robot and Bitcoin?
I think it's a pretty cool show so far. I will admit that I want to go back and rewatch some of the episodes. And, and I am not totally up to date on the latest one, but I have watched several of them. And, okay, what are the things I like? Actually, I think one of the things I like are just the casual references. For example, in this shop where that FBI lady always buys her sandwich, then there's always behind the guy is that little Bitcoin and eCoin symbol where you can, I guess, load up or whatever. And, it's just kind of part of the story in general. And that's pretty cool. And I think that it's really dramatic and, there's a lot of things on the news, but maybe that's how things are right now, but it's just we don't see it totally, that it's not so much in your face. We got WikiLeaks. There's stuff getting hacked, but probably you just don't hear about it because, of course, they don't want to tell you. So, there is a lot of hacking going on, countries hacking each other, crazy stuff like that. I don't know if there's really like this shadow army of China in this show. I think that's kind of plays into a lot of people have a fear of China in everything, like political and hackers and Bitcoiners are like, oh yeah, China miners and everything. So it kind of plays into that whole thing. You've got that aspect. You got the shadow army there. So they got a lot of good elements. I also like that they have to, it's not that they show, even though some of the parts of the hacking probably aren't totally realistic, of course, but what is cool is that they do show that they actually have to infiltrate places. So they actually have to break in and they have to, put the little, Raspberry Pi behind at the special place, and you got to make sure that it's connected right, and all the social engineering and all that. Of course, it's a show, but I like how that's also a big part of it, the whole social engineering aspect of it. And I'm pretty curious to see how it goes on. And I will actually comment that I really like the 90s episode. It's probably one of my favorite episodes. It's pretty weird, but I really do. Actually, I think it's probably and Robot has some pretty weird episodes. Probably the weirdest episode. But I think I really like it, and I really like the laughing in the background the whole time, and how he's asking, why is everyone laughing? What is that? And then they've got this guy in the trunk, and Alf is in the convenience mart. That's pretty great. I mean, it gets pretty wild there. It gets really crazy. What is it? The mom says, "Yeah, are your fingers broken yet?" I mean, there's some really crazy stuff going on there. So you could go back to that episode and analyze, some of the screenplay going on there, and figure out what it symbolizes, maybe, or maybe it's just supposed to be a kind of freak out episode. Who knows?
Yeah, well,
But
Theo, to quote some of our friends, that episode was definitely Bitcoin weird, even though there was no Bitcoin in it.
right, but that's it. Maybe there was Bitcoin in it. Maybe they're trying to tell us that Alf has Satoshi or something. They're trying to.
I also think that was a great episode. And before the show, Tone told us he didn't like that episode. I'm still shocked about that.
That's my
But I mean, it was a great
episode.
him in a coma, and it also sets up the idea of the unreliable narrator, which is a major theme for the show. There's a major spoiler in season 1. There's a major spoiler in season 2. The general theme is you cannot trust this character, yet he's the one telling you the story. So you don't have any other options. I also agree with what Theo said about the realism of the hacking and the way that they use multiple levels, the social engineering, the phone calls. In the most recent episode, not a spoiler, but he sends a fax. Then he makes fun of police officers being the only ones to use fax. Then he calls up the police office and he does a phony phone call. He's like, "Oh, I need help on my report." And these things work. These are very simple things that are a big part of real hacking, like Kevin Mitnick or any of these other people. They're social engineers first. They will talk the password out of you, and then they'll hack you. So it's a complex thing. But let's go. Okay, here we go, Tone. Go ahead and say some bad things about Mr. Robot and get ready for the battle.
No. I'll let you hype it up for the audience before I talk about why I find that show incredibly frustrating. Go on.
All right, so more about Mr. Robot. I'll talk more. No, I got lots more.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Tell the audience why they should watch Mr. Robot, and then I will go into why I find that show incredibly frustrating.
Okay, this is the first show ever about hacking on television. When they do things like change directory, they're actually using Linux. They're actually using like a cool cell phone that has all of the hacking features on it. When they do things like have Angela Moss bring the Femtocell into the FBI's network to spy on their Wi-Fi, she has to plug it into the right place. She has to configure it. She's interrupted by the new FBI agent when she's trying to turn the Ethernet on with the up command. When they're teaching her the actual commands, it's real commands. Elliot is an odd character. He has a bit of Asperger's. He has a bit of Fight Club. He has a bit of multi-personality. He's obviously an unreliable narrator, which I think is great. It's the first show about hacking. It has some elements of Bitcoin. And for me, what I really wanted to talk about here to focus the discussion is the successful hack. In the end of Fight Club, they blow up those buildings in Delaware in an attempt to reset the credit record back to 0. In this TV show, major spoiler, if you haven't seen season 1, this is kind of a big spoiler. They successfully hacked the credit record of E Corp. They removed the ownership record. Then through a second hack of some thermostats, they destroy the backup tapes, which is just a beautiful 1-2 punch that puts the financial world on its heels. And we really see a situation where Humpty Dumpty has fallen off the wall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men could never put him back together. But the FBI sure is trying. And the second season is mainly about a net slowly closing around the main characters that we all know and love. And will they get out? Will they have a larger hack? How much have they planned for this plan? What is the Dark Army doing? What is China doing? What is E Corp doing? And then most of all, what is Elliot doing? What is Mr. Robot doing? We don't know. He lies to us over and over again. I think it's a fantastic show on almost every level. I like the style of it. I like the filming. It feels a little like New York, but it has a very coldness to it. I like Elliot's always wearing the hoodie, the way he rarely talks, the way he clearly has emotional issues. He probably has a crush on Angela, but he can't seem to bring that out. It's similar to Fight Club, where the guy was in love with Marla, but instead he created Tyler Durden, and he created the destruction of the financial system in that film, and the fighters and all the different things. Obviously, spoilers for Fight Club, but you should have seen Fight Club by now. No, it's a great show. Bring it on, Tone. What you got? It's not 100% accurate. It's not a history of the Silk Road. Dread Pirate Roberts didn't allow this stuff, sure, but the dark net is the dark net, and Hollywood's going to give you a sensationalist version of the dark net. They're not going to give you gumdrops and rainbows of libertarian happiness. Come on. What you got?
Well, there's the statute of limitations on spoilers, and Fight Club has definitely passed that statute of limitations. If you haven't seen it by now, I'm sure it's been spoiled many, many times. This is kind of like a recreation of Fight Club, but it's to me, the show was incredibly slow. I don't have that kind of patience. I just don't.
I think you're looking for the word deliberate.
I'm not a big fan of the split personality disorders. I don't. Again, I'm not a big fan of the show. I don't like the insane narration, like you said. I mean, you might enjoy it.
There's a beautiful fourth wall breaking tool that they're using where us, the narrator that he talks to, is yet another character in his head. He starts saying, "You never talk, you never say anything, but talking to you makes Mr. Robot go away." Like the complexity of what we're seeing from inside the character's head. This is the way to tell drama of a single person's view that even then, like Rashomon, can't be trusted.
I do have to give a shout out to the person that got me into the show to begin with, because I saw the first few episodes at his place when I was in San Francisco. This would be Eric Martingale from Blockstream. So that was the person that got me onto the show. I started watching season 1. I really, really enjoyed it for the first, 5 to 7 episodes, and then I thought that it kind of went astray for me.
There was a point where I almost dropped out in season 1 because it felt like Fight Club meets American Psycho, and I love both of those properties, but I wanted a new plot, and season 2 gave me a new plot.
So here's what bothers me the most. I mean, yes, they're hacking. Their hack might be realistic. They are using real commands. They're showing hacking how it is. You know what? They've had 25 years to prepare for this, right? I'm sure the hacking shows of like the early 90s would have been. They don't have as many experts, right? I mean, you have enough experts now that have been arrested so many times for hacking that they're more than happy to take a job and make this look very, very realistic for the movie.
In Hackers, the movie, the good guys rollerblade, the bad guys skateboard. We've come a long way since then.
But okay, so here's what bothers me, and maybe that's because I come from the financial sector where I've been, a good 10 plus years. Can you tell me what E Corp is?
E Corp. I don't know. It's kind of like Microsoft. It's kind of like IBM. It's kind of like Halliburton. It's kind of like a company that owns everything, and they own subsidiaries, and they're polluting the environment here, and they're nuking people here, and they're stealing data here, and they're just the ultimate evil corporation stand-in. It's even called E Corp, like evil corporation.
Right. So it's called E Corp. They don't give the company's real name, just E Corp. They're using the Enron's logo, which is or logo-ish, which is kind of ironic. They're polluting something to cause cancer while they're also in charge of the financial industry, right? And to me, this sounds kind of insane, like more insane than the lead character, right? You don't have one organization to do all that and be the only bank in America, right? It's like every bank became one company, and that company is also involved in chemical manufacturing, right? And God knows what else. I mean, to me, this is incredibly weird. Also, no company, companies that were as tiny as 50 people, and our backups were, our company was downtown Manhattan, and we had 2 backups. We had a backup at the basement of the Google building, which is probably the most secure place we can figure out where to put the backup on the East Coast, and then we had a data recovery backup in case of a disaster in California. which as a geologist is probably the last place you want your disaster recovery, in a place prone to earthquakes. But anyway, that's where our backup of the backup was. And we were a risk analysis shop that didn't even hold people's money, right? So again, right, to me this is insane that they would keep the backup in their own facility, along with every
It
single...
sounded to me like the Chinese hacking group was necessary to get to the backup and to hack the thermostats. And while they may have had additional backup sites in a more realistic plot, I think it seemed like realistic. The hackers did due diligence. The hackers were a security company consulting for E-Corp. They had insider information that allowed them to pull off this.
No, I believe that, but again, I go back to the point of why is all of America's financial information at one company, right? I just can't get past that
JP
part.
Morgan, Chase, Charles Schwab, some of the larger ones, I'm forgetting their names now, but there's been so many. They're in multiple industries. They're vertically integrated.
But you have...
Philip Morris owns food and cigarettes. How could those go together? They're poisoning people in different ways. It's complex.
Yeah, but at least Philip Morris has a Marlboro. Marlboro is a competitor, right? I'm guessing. I don't smoke. They could be the same company. I don't know. But they do have competitors. I know that, right? Just like J.P. Morgan has, Bank of America and Wells Fargo. I mean, a lot of them went down in the financial crisis, so they did kind of merge, and they're still merging. But anyway, I mean. Or they can't erase these backups, right? Like every mortgage has an email attached to it, right? They can't erase all the emails. I mean, look, just Google and you'll have your mortgage records back just from Google's email.
Sometimes buildings across the street completely collapse and all the evidence, even the paper, is destroyed. Oops.
That is true, but anyway, so I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Mr. Robot. Startup gets a thumbs up from me. Mr. Robot, I mean, I will probably finish the second season. I just got to the parts where their Bitcoin starts to get involved. I have not gotten to any eCoin yet. I haven't gotten that far. I'm only 6 episodes into season 2.
There's not that much eCoin, really. It does seem like it's quietly there on the outside that the evil corporation has come up with a currency alternative to replace things, but that still doesn't allow them to reprint the debt record or to properly restore funds to people's accounts, things like this. The country's on lockdown. They're on an allowance. They're getting $50 a day. Shops are shutting down. Power is starting to fail. I love this drama where it's like, will the FBI find the person that did this and presumably put everything back to normal? Or what happens? I mean, there could be a whole societal breakdown third season. I doubt it.
Yeah,
but
maybe, but
maybe it's exactly what's. I just want to say maybe it's not so complicated. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is just exactly what's going on right now. We just don't see it.
Yeah, no, so society seems to be acting fairly normally. The bars seem to be packed. I mean,
exactly like now.
It does seem like class warfare is starting to break out. I wanted
to ask something because I don't remember exactly about that whole water poisoning thing. Maybe it was just a company they own that decided to do that, or I don't know if it was E-Corp directly. I'd have to go back and check it. It seemed pretty weird.
If they're involved in energy and they're involved in banking, energy often results in pollution, whether it's a coal plant or a nuclear plant. We don't know much about the accident. This is probably a spoiler, but I mean, Angela Moss, her family seems to have been devastated by the accident. Seems to be working undercover in a way for E-Corp in an attempt to get these records, which at some point she might try to give to the government. If that's successful or not, we just don't know much about the accident. But it is an interesting.
I'll tell you which character I do like in that show. That's the Danish, the wife, the wife of the interim CTO.
She's evil.
Yeah, her character is very intriguing. So I really like her character. Okay. Most of the other characters are just driving me up the wall.
Hey guys, I gotta break something to you. I didn't know it, but I've been informed that the guy is speaking Swedish. and the wife is speaking Danish, and it's just kind of, I mean, it doesn't really make sense, but that's just how it's going on. I mean, they are similar languages, but it's just show for us.
I wonder if they're supposed to be speaking the same language, or if they're supposed to be smart enough that they know both languages. I don't know.
That's an interesting idea. So I did hear that. So next time you
at
are
first,
watching
I couldn't recognize the language, and they do look white, so I kind of assume, I'm like, maybe they're Brazilian, maybe they're speaking Portuguese. But then, like, before we did the show yesterday, I'm like, Googled it. I'm like, you know what? Let me see where these actors are from, and they are from Northern Europe, so I figured they're speaking Dutch or Swedish or something.
I definitely like the character of Mr. Robot, or not Mr. Robot, but Elliot. Elliot does such a great job with his being quiet, speaking infrequently. He has a bit of a bug eyes thing, but that also seems to lend to his concentration and his ability to focus. But the other character I want to highlight is Angela Moss. At first, she kind of bugged me in the first season because she was so nervous. But now in the second season, she really has something to be nervous about. She's in way over her head. Things are very complex. The part, I'm not sure if you've gotten there, but she sings a karaoke song of Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And she sings it in such a slow and melancholy way. It seems like she had great dreams of ruling the world. And she gets so close being this big executive at E Corp and having the fancy apartment and fancy dinners. But the world's been destroyed around her, partially due to her actions. And it's really showing the dynamics of getting everything you wanted, but it not having any value. She's very fascinating. Second season, I love this new FBI agent, Dominique, I think her name is. She's dogged and persevering, but she's also a quirky character similar to the FBI agent in the other show, where I'm always interested to see what she's going to do. Like, she was messing with one of the larger hacker guys who gets interviewed by her, and she's got a sucker in her mouth, and she's being all girly and friendly to him. Then she throws the sucker in the trash and hits him with it. This combination of strengths seems like a real thing when you're an FBI agent, when you have such a complex and difficult task. I think it's a great show. Come on, Tone, what you got?
No, I think I'm done. Like I said, I'll finish the season. I don't know. Maybe you'll trick me into watching season 3 if we do this again in like a year.
There'll be a great cliffhanger at the end of season 2. We will be dying to know what happens in season 3.
I think this thing is no, guys, you got it all wrong. This thing is going Game of Thrones. End of season 2, everyone's dying. The Shadow Army comes and just with machine guns and just destroys everybody, and then it goes back to the normal world of authoritarian rule.
I love the part when she says, I clipped one of the Dark Army agents and he shot himself in the head. He erased his record. And when she mixes the computer term with the death of a human being, and to see them being willing to commit suicide for that, such dedication from a soldier. The Dark Army is a fascinating part of this. I'd like to know more.
I thought that scene was like incredibly weird. It didn't really make sense to me, but many of the things on that show don't. I did not like reliving the early to mid 90s for that long. I thought it would be just 3 minutes before the credits, but it went on for the entire episode. Oh God! I mean, I find the Seinfeld references kind of funny because I've seen all those episodes back when I was a kid. This shows how old we are, right? Anytime they mention a Seinfeld episode, I was like, yeah, that's reliving my high school days right there.
I enjoy the Seinfeld part too. I like the way that he was discovering it and really studying it biblically, watching every day, watching more and more episodes till he completes this whole show, and that you can do that now. And it's interesting stuff. But let's move on. Exit question. Mr. Robot, with its accurate portrayal of computer hackers, will inspire a generation to follow in Elliot's footsteps and hack the planet. Theo Goodman.
Planet's already hacked. You just don't see it.
Tone Vase.
No, I don't think so. I think they're just gonna realize how weird most programmers are. That though they already know that, and there's just too many things that can go wrong. I mean, there's a reason why hackers, work in secret. They almost never meet in person. And in this case, not only are they meeting each other fairly much, they're also meeting their, crazy fans way too much for my taste. I mean, in the real world, 1 in every 4 to 5 people is a police informant. So when you put a bunch of hackers in a room and you add about 20 or 30 people partying with those hackers who know exactly what those hackers did, cops will be there with reality in reality. So again, there's just too many little points that show that I'm like, this will never happen.
The answer is yes. It will inspire a generation of computer hackers who are also inspired by Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks. They will see Elliot as a hero, but they'll probably mix it more with a commercial attitude because computer hackers make so much money, and Elliot doesn't seem to have any kind of luxury at all. So there'll be a mixture of the two. Moving on. Shop at purse.io and get 5% off Andreas Antonopoulos' brand new book, The Internet of Money, just released yesterday on the Joe Rogan Show. Shop at Purse with Bitcoin and save money at purse.io. Issue 3, Dope, the movie. 3 honors students who dress and act like 90s hip-hop is still #1. Grow up in a rough neighborhood in Los Angeles. Eventually creating a version of the Silk Road and selling drugs online for Bitcoin, the movie is full of Bitcoin and nerdy references, and unlike the tame startup, it even features a little nudity. Tone Vase, your thoughts on Dope?
I saw it a little while ago. I saw it while on a plane, and if anyone traveled and you watch the movie on a plane, you kind of pay attention, kind of.
You probably don't get the nudity, though. It's a
Um,
far weaker film without it, I think.
no, you get the nudity. I've watched some insanely inappropriate things on airplanes, and I'm always thinking, I wonder if there's the kid behind me, like watching it through the cushions. But I don't really care because if the airline is gonna put it up there. I mean, look, I think I've seen like Spartacus on an airplane once, right? I mean, I've seen some very inappropriate movies and shows on airplanes. You know what? I watch them. Hey, if there's an 11-year-old boy behind me, good. He just had a very good flight, right? Because I know his parents ain't gonna let him watch it. You know, like sneak between the seats to watch what I'm watching. So I vaguely remember the nudity. But anyway, that's not really important. But I thought the movie was pretty good. It had a pretty good portrayal. Again, it didn't go too deep onto the Bitcoin because they probably were afraid they were going to get it wrong. They covered it just right. The movie was pretty good. I mean, I found it really interesting. So it's I thought it was a good portrayal. I didn't have any complaints after that movie was over, but yeah, I mean it was also interesting. I think they feature Flocka, right? Flocka was the drug of choice for the people there.
It was some kind of pill. It kind of seemed like ecstasy. I'm not sure.
I don't think it was Flocka. I do not think they had Flocka in the movie. I think they were just trying to sell it to like white ravers and stuff like that.
No. But what was
Really?
the white chick on, right? What was the chick on that was peeing in the at the bus stop?
I think she was on the crazy version of ecstasy they had, like it was Molly times 10 or something. I don't
really?
know the exact
Again,
drug.
right? Like I said, I saw it a while back on an airplane, so I don't remember which drugs they were. I mean, it's not like they created a Silk Road to sell a bunch of drugs. They had like a whole backpack of one specific drug, if my memory serves me correctly, and they just needed a way to move that drug. So I don't think they created the site, or they did. That part I don't remember. But they were
They did, but they only sold the one drug. Yeah.
Right. They only sold the one drug, and I'm not sure if they sold it on somebody else's website or they created their own website to sell that one drug. But they clearly did it right. They moved it. They were using coin. They weren't using, Ethereum. So again, the show seemed fairly realistic. So I got no complaints. It was a fair portrayal of Bitcoin.
I really like this movie. What I liked about this movie was the outsider nature of the kids. To me, they were dressed so perfectly in their 90s hip-hop outfits. I kind of thought they'd be cool kids. But because it's the future and 90s hip-hop is not cool anymore, and because they're into computers and they're into science, they are the nerdy kids at their high school. Even the fade and the line in his hair, and he looks cool as heck to me, but he's not cool. They are not cool. And
I
I
know.
really like that.
No, I dug it also, but that's the thing. In the beginning, I was so freaking confused because I didn't. They actually did a very good portrayal of the 90s, and that's when I went to school. So I was going to school in the matter that they're talking in, the matter that they're the music that they're listening to, the way they're dressing. That's when I was in high school. So when the movie started, I'm like, it seemed so freaking real to me that I'm thinking the movie actually takes place in the mid to late 90s. But they're talking about Bitcoin, and I'm so
And
freaking.
I think they do that on purpose as a
I know,
reveal. When you
and
find out that the gangster is making fun of them for their 90s
right,
clip, and he's
right.
completely rejecting all these things that we think are cool, yeah, it really changes the plot.
So then when you realize that the movie does actually take place in the 90s, the movie does take place and in real time. But again, you have to backtrack, right? The script for this movie and the casting for this movie. This was all written years ago. This was probably written like back in early 2013, maybe even 2012, when this movie was pitched to investors to make the movie. So their portrayal was insanely accurate for Bitcoin back at the time when the movie was, conceived, not at the time when the movie was aired.
Another thing I want to talk about is the main character's speech at the end. I really like it. It
Oh,
reminds me,
good.
of course, of Tom Cruise's Risky Business, where at the end of that movie, again, spoilers, but it's from the 80s, he's
No, no
run,
spoilers. That don't count.
well, people are all about this now, but so he runs a successful escort service, and at
That's a
the
good
end of the
movie.
show, he's like, I'm a high school student and I just sold $1 million of sex in the last 24 hours. And the same kind of thing for this one. The guy's like, I'm a high school student and I just used all this Bitcoin to sell all these drugs and I'm good at it and I can make things happen and boom, boom, boom. That's why you should let me into Harvard. Boom. Like, it's a great, well, I guess we spoiled the end of the movie, but it's a great ending. It's a great ending to a movie. I think it really has a high point.
No, it's good. Definitely worth watching. Check it out. I mean, the biggest spoiler that I'm giving you is no, the movie doesn't take place in the 90s. But if you were in high school in the 90s, the first few scenes, you would think that the movie does take place in the 90s until they make it clear that it's not. Then I'm like, okay, then Bitcoin makes sense.
The movie is very fresh. Theo Goodman, your thoughts on Dope?
Well, Dope is pretty damn dope. And, of course, I like 90s and all that. What I want to say is that since you just talked about Risky Business, what we've done now in this show is created a whole new subgenre of film. Like in the 80s and 90s, there were certain subgenres of movies. For example, there were like the trading places movies, like, they trade personalities, or there's the like go to the Back to the Future time travel like genre, like, Bill and Ted's Back to the Future. You had like these kind of themes. Now we've got the now there's going to be the crypto theme, and that's going to be like its own subgenre. So basically, you're just going to have a recycling of old movies. So they're going to be like, okay, Risky Business. What we'll do is we'll just make that now, and we'll add in Bitcoin, and I don't know, put like one little twist on it, and bam, we've got a whole new movie. And I don't know, just think of any other movie.
Dude, Wolf of Wall Street plus Bitcoin. It's so easy.
Yeah, well, I was saying,
Animal House plus Bitcoin. They're in college. They have trouble. They raise money with crypto. They throw a big party with the crypto. Hey, we're doing that in real life. We're throwing a crypto party.
I think, what about just Wall Street, but with Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And what they're doing, they're just taking over startups. I mean, you just use the structure of the movie. You don't have to use it exactly. So, in Wall Street, he's like buying companies and like breaking them up and then, making money by, doing hostile takeovers. Well, this other guy just like buys startups that are about to die and then, pumps them up to these amazing things. And that's like the whole movie. I mean, you could do that, with some movies, it would work. I think Risky Business, as you were describing it, that's what really got me on it. So I think that, now we've created a whole new subgenre of film, and you might see now we got, you picked out these three, And who knows? It could be a kind of thing now where there's like, there's some kind of like cryptocurrency in the show or in the movie as a main part of it or as part of the sub theme, and that's kind of the subgenre now.
Well, I definitely agree, Theo. I hope Hollywood listens and makes more crypto movies like this so we can talk about it again, because I think it's super fun and it promotes Bitcoin, which I, of course, think is a good thing. A lot of people can discuss that. But for the Wolf of Wall Street, they'd definitely be doing altcoins. They'd be like, we're selling people the paper that's not even worth the paper it's printed on, and we're pumping and dumping. You got to be pumping. And the guy does chump, 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 pump, pump, pump. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff.
The guy
no. There will definitely movies come out. Like the Mark Arpella story will probably be a movie. Trend and Shaver's story will probably be a movie. Maybe even Charlie
Silk
Shred.
Road, definitely. Silk Road.
Yeah, Silk Road. I think there might have been already. I think someone's already like did that, like Dark Web or something.
Bitfinex.
There will definitely be movies on this, but right now what we're seeing is the movies are completely embrace the internet and the internet culture, right? Because if you go back to the movies of the late 90s, early 2000s, it's very different. I recently saw, not the first time, but I was watching Minority Report. I don't know, you guys remember that movie?
Yeah. Based on the short story by Philip K. Dick.
And if you go back and watch that movie now, it's like the technology. I remember when a movie came out, everyone was like really fascinated with the technology that they were using there. So now people aren't as fascinated with the technology, so you have to fascinate them, with what Bitcoin can do. And I think we're going to see it more often. I can tell you, speaking of TV, the worst portrayal of Bitcoin has been, because this has been pointed out to me, so I've seen the episodes on like Criminal Minds on CBS. That's just disgraceful the way they portray Bitcoin. That's pretty bad. We'll see where the dark market takes it.
I'm not familiar with Criminal Minds. What kind of aspects of Bitcoin do they show?
I mean, it's an FBI show. They basically hinted that all that Bitcoin is good for is like assassination markets, which is pretty bad.
I think I've seen actually an episode and I think if it's the same show I'm thinking about, and actually it's pretty funny. They get some things right and some things not exactly right, because they're like, yeah, you see, they think it's anonymous, but it's not, and they're we're tracking it down, and they've got like a bit of Blockchain Explorer on this gigantic screen, and they're like, look, see, we've got them now, we've got them cornered, and somehow they figure out an address from that, which is not, of course they simplify that a little bit, but that's pretty good. There's this other show.
There was an old show called The Good Wife that was also on CBS that mentioned Bitcoin a few times, and this was even before I was into Bitcoin, so before 2013. And they had Jim Cramer on the show, and Jim Cramer famously said that Bitcoin was worthless and not worth anything, and which was a script, but still, I think he still believes that. But yeah, those are very good references back then.
What's the name? Not The Hitman. There's another show right now, The Hitman, The Hit List, anyway, someone was going to know it in the show. He talks about like using Ripple and Bitcoin, and this guy is like trying to pay him a ransom, and he goes, yeah, but you mix that first, right? And he's like, yeah, I went through a Ripple gateway, and then I went through the mixer, and then I did this and this. He's like, all right then, so I'll put it in the comments. I forgot the name of the show. If it's not The Hit List or something like that. Anyway, also check out btcartgallery.com. And I think he has a category, TV shows or movies. And then he has like all he collects the references. And that's pretty good to check out. So you can definitely check that out and see, when something is mentioned. I mean, it was mentioned in The Simpsons, right? On a billboard.
And Homer talks about it. There was a joke line, I forget what it was, but something about him investing in Bitcoin. There's a small Bitcoin logo in the background of the bar in the movie Deadpool. That was a pretty interesting reference.
Oh, really?
I like these little references.
I didn't see
that.
Yeah,
when there's a screenshot. I'm sure it's on Bitcoin Art Gallery, so give him another plug. Check it out. TJ Miller, the Silicon Valley guy, has it right there in the thing behind it. Bitcoin accepted here.
Yeah. No, I was just about to mention Silicon Valley. I love the Bitcoin references to Silicon Valley. I actually love Silicon Valley. It's like one of my favorite shows on TV right now. Silicon Valley is great. If you're not watching it, you definitely should.
Can't wait till it comes back. It's definitely like a real life thing. You see that startup in the beginning, they're hosting Kid Rock, they're on top of the world, and by the next end of the season, the guy's looking for work. It's so realistic to what we're doing here in the startups. It's
you know what?
Hit, some miss. It's so fast.
And honestly, like I also see the show Startup in a similar way. They're trying to fund a project that she's trying to get VC money. Obviously, that may not be a good idea. They're trying to. And it's not working, so they're going after gangster money. It's kind of
it's not too different than having an ICO, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, let's sell some coins. Maybe the gangsters buy your coins.
Yeah, and it's also like great references. Going back to Startup for a second, it's like everyone, like the FBI agent and the criminal, they both talk that the guys up in the suits on the top floors are as criminal as the guys below on the street on the corners. It's like fully accepted that everyone hustles. Everyone's a criminal. One is just wearing a suit, and one is and one's carrying a gun.
Excellent point to end on, and we're going to move to the exit question. This is the most important question of the show. Which of the three, and go ahead and rank them in order, which of the three was the best? Startup, Mr. Robot, or Dope? Tone Bays, we're going to start off with you. I know Mr. Robot's going to be number one.
Yeah, Mr. Robots is getting the last spot. So at this point, I really wish I saw the entire first season of Startup. So I only have the first 3 episodes to go by. But out of the 3, I would rank Startup first, and then Dope second, and Mr. Robot third.
I'm going to go with a slightly different order with Mr. Robot first, Dope second, and Startup third. I like Startup, but it's a little sensationalistic. Mr. Robot just hits it for me on the tone, on the realism, and it even has a bit of a Fight Club Finchner element with the way it's being directed visually, with the style of the series, the gray. There's so much gray. Theo Goodman, your thought?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I can't really rank them. I think Dope is pretty good, actually. I think I'm going to go with Dope, Robot, and then Startup. Yeah, those are my rankings, because Dope, just straight up utility basically, and I think that's good. So that's why I'm going with that. We don't have Hollywood or whatever. There's no shows about altcoin traders in basements and their mom telling them to get off the computer or something like that. That could be a hit show. I mean, imagine that, and then how many young traders would start trading altcoins on all these markets. Like if there's some hit show where it's like this kid that's 14 that, he stays up all night trading altcoins, and then he has to go to school, but he's making bank, and he's like at school on his phone, doing like some weird pump and dumps or something. And then,
Hey, Theo, we should pitch a reality show, man. Like we know enough of these guys. We'll go to their house, we'll set up cameras, and we'll get a reality show going.
I think there's definitely opportunity for 2 different dramas there. I think there's the one where they're trading altcoins and they lose all their money and how it affects their lives. And there's the other one where they're trading altcoins and they just become ridiculously sick millionaires. And they're 18-year-old kids and they don't know what to do and they have all this money. I think there's a comedy aspect there. There's a dramedy aspect there. There's a lot of good ideas.
No, it's a good idea. No, the reason why I would love to do it, right, is because I want to have a camera on one of these guys, because I want to watch him move his entire account into some kind of scam coin or like into the DAO, and then watch it implode. Because all you see in the comment section are guys that it's like I got into an argument with someone in the thing who's like going off on, oh, I told you all that Monero is the next great thing. It's the best. I was right. And then he says, well, this is why I moved all my steam into Monero. I'm like, you know what? You're just a pumper. You're just a pumper, right? You're not assuming you're telling the truth, because I have no freaking idea and I'm not going to vet it, right? So, and that's what I told him. I'm like, look, you're going to get out of Monero. You're going to sell all your Monero. You're going to put it into the next pump coin. And then after that coin pumps, you're going to tell everyone you were right and you got out of Monero on top and you got into the other coin, whether it's the truth or not. or Monero is going to implode, you're going to lose all your money, and we're never going to hear from you again, right? So when you have a camera on these guys and you watch when they put in all their money into the latest scam coin and lose 70% of their money, it's now on record.
And that would be a very easy reality show format. You have the scene where he puts his money in, then you have that in-camera interview where he's like, oh, I lost all my money, I'm really depressed, I've been feeling bad lately, I can't even afford cigarettes, girlfriend's mad at me, like all that kind of shit. I think it would be an interesting reality show.
And this show isn't to pump altcoins, right? Which is why my advice will always be, it's going up, good for you. If you made money, good for you. It's not going to last. It's going to fall 70, 80%, like everything else, fall 70, 80%. Bitcoin fell 70, 80%. Your other coin is going to fall 70 and 80%. The question is, will there be confidence in that other altcoin to get it back up to new highs after a 90% drop? In Bitcoin, there was, and we're still not even at the old highs. In any other altcoin, there hasn't been a single proof that it can get back there. Ironically, Dash actually did the best. They went up to 15, then they crashed down to like $6, $7, and then they went back up to like 14 recently. That's probably the best example of an altcoin that crashed over 50% and was able to recover. But I also think Dash is nonsense, so I don't think that's going to last. When Monero falls 80%, for whatever reason, I don't know what that reason will be, but it will fall 80% because everything falls 80% after a pump. Will it recover is the question. If it will, maybe it's here to stay. If it's like Litecoin, it'll never recover. Right. So there you go.
Well, I'm gonna have to continue on the maximalist jihad. And of course, everything that's not Bitcoin is a scam. And if there's going to be an altcoin TV show, then it has to have its own coin for the show with an ICO. That's the only way an altcoin show would work. It has to have its own coin. The only way to advertise on the show to get product placement is to participate in the ICO. And then it would be traded on all the shitcoin exchanges, and that's how you get an ad in the show. It would only be product placement. So, you only get, your debit card, they use your debit card in the show, that it's a shitcoin debit card, but only because you bought the show shitcoins and paid for them in the show shitcoins. So it has to be that kind of feedback loop that these other projects have created.
Shitcoins.
Right. Well, again, this is why, like, I have like after the first 3 episodes of the show Startup, I have like high expectations for the show, because. Yes, she's pitching her altcoin, Gencoin, which is an altcoin like we have altcoins, but they can take the show into any direction. In season 2 or season 3, her coin can implode like a scam, and then everyone switches to Bitcoin on the show, and it can migrate into a Bitcoin show. Like, it has that opportunity. Like the show
I'm afraid season 2, she starts writing smart contracts and a Turing-complete world computer engine with gas.
Well, right, that's the thing, right? Are they going to take the show into? I don't know what direction that show is going to go. I hope it doesn't go into the way of Ethereum.
Guys,
I'm afraid more sex and violence. More sex, more violence.
We've just created another subgenre, guys. The blockchain subgenre. So from now on, not only
I'm really more into blockchain shows. I'm less about Bitcoin shows these days.
Here's the best part about the show Startup. I'm 3 episodes in. I've heard the word Bitcoin. I've heard Gencoin a million times. I have not heard the word blockchain yet. I love it. I mean, honestly, everyone was making fun of that show during the trailers before it was coming out. Everyone said it was going to be stupid. Look, it might be stupid. I'm 3 episodes in. Yes, they got sex scenes everywhere without showing any nudity, which is kind of somewhat frustrating. But I like it. I like the show. I'm looking forward to it. I am gonna watch the entire season. God, my credibility is about to be ruined, but I recommend it. Based on the first 3 episodes, I don't know where it's gonna go, but I recommend the show. It's as realistic as an altcoin show can possibly get.
Okay, I got one final thing, and it doesn't have to do with altcoins. Before I forget, I heard a rumor, and I think it's true. And it's pretty interesting. It does have to do with Mr. Robot. It's kind of funny. The producers emailed Bitcoin.com and were basically saying, hey, is it okay? Can we use Bitcoin in our show? Is that all right with you? Because, we don't want to, do any
Wait, what show was this? What show
the
was
Mr.
this?
Robot producers, the Mr. Robot producers.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
They emailed them and said, hey, and then they replied basically, oh no one really owns it or whatever. And then now we see the shows that have come out after that.
As Satoshi Nakamoto, I say it's okay.
Anyway, fun little.
Yeah. Speaking of Mr. Robot, I am curious if that Bitcoin truck actually exists in Washington Square Park, where the girl was jogging. It was by NYU. It was definitely Washington Square Park. I recognize the area. I've been there a dozen times, or way more than that. There was a truck that looked like it was selling food, but I think they were screaming that they're selling Bitcoin, which made no sense.
It was after the hack. It was after the hack, and they were offering it as an alternative currency.
Right. You don't sell Bitcoin out of a food truck. You sell food out of a food truck. But it was nice to see a nice orange Bitcoin truck.
It was from far away, and it had the bit of a feeling of an armored car. I'm not sure about the shot, but in my mind, it's an armored car because they're putting the cash inside and they're taking the Bitcoin out. I don't know.
Maybe that actually would have been a cool way for Charlie Shrem to run his business out of New York, with a truck selling Bitcoin instead of selling food. But I
think if you really want to have a successful business, you need a Winnebago. But that's a reference to a show that I haven't even watched. So let's move on to predictions or story of the week. Are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Tone Vase, I know you're not prepared. What have you got?
I'm not prepared, but I'm going to make Theo unprepared because I'm going to steal his prediction or story of the week, and I know what it is. But I want to talk about gambling because football season has started, and I think that had something to do with the rise in the Bitcoin price. Now, there's never a smoking gun in anything. I think the hype over football season starting and Bitcoin being getting involved, being used for gambling, had a lot more to do with Bitcoin actually being used for gambling. But I don't mind; it's causing the Bitcoin price to go up. I think gambling will be a really big. I mean, if people don't know Bitcoin for the purposes of gambling, they will by the time this football season ends. I can promise you that.
That reminds me, one of the things we thought we'd see this year, and I'm not sure we've seen it yet, is for DraftKings or one of these weekly fantasy football, essentially gambling sites, to take Bitcoin directly. I'm not sure that happened. A lot of us had predicted that. We really thought it was going to happen.
Well, actually, if you go back to those episodes, I predicted it for the following football season, not for this upcoming one. Whatever
Still
episode that was.
Still got a chance.
Yep, I can. I was talking about that. It's going to happen this time. These companies are big enough to withstand not having to know about Bitcoin. But for next year's football season, I believe that's when we'll see it.
Theo Goodman, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week? Did Tone steal yours perfectly?
No, not perfectly, but yeah, sure. That was interestingly timed jump in price. Of course, any movement in price, you can then after the fact, you can, give it any kind of narration you want. It could be because, my star sign is in this part of the solar system, and that's why it went up. And I could somehow justify that. But I think in this case, I think I think it's very possible that it was from that. And I think that is kind of the story of the week right now. There's a lot of people talking about, sports betting and Bitcoin. That's definitely true as far as the fantasy football, DraftKings, as far as one of the big ones. It looks like they're okay right now. They were under more pressure last year, it seems like, but let's see how the year goes on. I did tweet to the DFS UK. They did start a UK one because he was going to a conference I was going to, and he said, well, if Bitcoin gets more mainstream, then maybe then. But he knew what it was. He wasn't against it. It was just about it being too niche right now, pretty much for them, and that's fine, you know. And in UK, they don't really need it because they're under less legal pressure as far as sports betting is legal, but still, nonetheless, you know, they know what it is. I think at this point, you know, cat's out of the hat, cat's out of the bag, whatever the saying is. And I just want to leave you, since we're talking about sports betting, leave you with a quick tip. The quick tip is Joe's bet teams, pros bet numbers.
Yeah,
There it is.
that's a good one. I also want to comment on that. I mean, I was a big gambler back in college before Bitcoin made it harder. In the early days of the internet, back using the teller, you had to call in some of those bets. I remember when the first internet gambling sites came out. This is before it became illegal. I remember the day that gambling sites became illegal in America. Oh man, and I was already trading stock back then. That was the biggest mistake, and I knew it too. I remember I was like counting down the days when poker, Texas Hold'em became very popular in online poker in America. And I remember the day when it was going to be shut down on the internet, and I was already a trader back then. I don't understand why I didn't like sell my house and put all that money on casino stocks, because casino stocks went up like 3x because everyone had the Texas Hold'em bug. Everyone learned about Texas Hold'em like in the prior 3 years thanks to ESPN. Everyone was gambling online. The moment they took poker offline, everyone went to like MGM Grand, and everyone was like traveling to play poker. Casinos the casino stocks went up through the roof. I'm like, and I knew that was coming too. That was like the worst stock decision I didn't make. But speaking of gambling, I was gambling back in college. I'm a Seminole. I went to Florida State Seminoles as my team. I went to college there. I am terrible at sports gambling. Me betting on the Seminoles probably cost them a few national championships back in the day. So I no longer bet on my team, Florida State Seminoles. I pray they beat the spread every time, but I will never ever bet on them. I have occasionally bet against them just so I can lose some money just to see them win. So maybe I'll do that this season because they're number 3 in the nation and it looks promising.
Some good points there, Tone. You're like Pete Rose. You won't bet against her for your team. For the rest of the time, you just have to gamble. But my story of the week is I had a great time last night at the San Francisco Bitcoin meetup. We had our drink up. We had about 30, 40 people there who talk about Bitcoin and cryptos. And we're having another great meetup coming up next week where our guest speaker will be Andreas Antonopoulos. You can all sign up on meetup.com, but we already have plenty of signups. He's pretty much become a god now. So it'll be great to see Andreas again and, of course, to hear him speak. Which is what we all appreciate about him, is his ability to put ideas together and to help explain Bitcoin and how it's going to change the world, and his mission to go around giving speeches and furthering Bitcoin. I think it's great stuff, and you should check out your local meetup. If you don't have one, start one near you. My meetup in Sacramento was mainly all of my friends and all of another guy's family, and we'd meet up every week at a pizza place and talk Bitcoin. And they all can't be huge meetups like San Francisco, but we got to start somewhere. And it's better to have a couple of friends that are into Bitcoin that you can talk to. A guy told me last night, he's like, my business friends are tired of me talking about it. My wife's tired of me talking about it. I needed to come to this meetup. And we were like, you've come to the right place. We're ready to talk Bitcoin. So check out your local meetup.
I can't wait. Next time I'm in San Francisco, I'll definitely come. I no longer talk about Bitcoin in the presence of friends and family. I have learned nothing good ever comes. So I've totally stopped.
Yes, but someday it'll come around and they'll be like, what is that Bitcoin thing? And we'll tell them that, we're out of time. Until next time, bye-bye.